Thank you, Viva. It's a big pleasure for me to be a part of this summit and a part of this panel. The situation of African populations, particularly those living in the central region, has been in Congress, as they live in an increasing poverty and precariousness in countries paradoxically rich in raw materials and natural resources. Indeed, the sub-Saharan Africa is the only region in the world where the population live below poverty line with $1 to $1.25 per day, and which has doubled in 50 years. Development delay in these countries cannot be explained solely by the global economic and geopolitical context. Indeed, before the Great Recession in 2008, Central African countries, which are mostly oil and or mineral producers, accumulated financial resources that could have impacted their development and improved the living conditions of their populations. It is not secret that governance in these countries is plagued by the lack of the visions from their leaders, mismanagement, corruption, misappropriation, and massive embezzlement. For the past decade, Gabon has accumulated no less than $50,000 billion without any correlation to social progress. No schools, no universities, no equipped hospitals. Populations lack everything. Even drinking water is a scarce commodity in both big cities and villages. Nations must bring everything from a compress to a thermometer to measure their own temperature or a tensiometer to monitor their own blood pressures. Poor governance from COVID-19 infection is one of, in comparison with virus, between 50 and 70%. But according to the epidemiological data, out of 100 infected cases, 15 suffered from severe symptoms, and among them, 5 will present complications requiring the reanimation under respiratory assistance. When we look at the equipment available in African countries, the number of artificial respirators appears extremely limited, which has become a great concern. Since the beginning of the crisis in Gabon, regular communication from the anti-COVID-19 task force is simply to list the number of contaminated persons and deaths. As of today, no report on reception and the healthcare capacities in hospitals has been presented. This opaque and inconsistent management is unfortunately shared by many countries in the continent. Until now, there has been no formal discussion among African presidents to reflect on joint actions to handle this crisis. Until now, there has been no formal discussion among African presidents to reflect on joint actions to handle this crisis. Even the exchanges organized by the Malagasy president on the promotion of the Artemisia plant have not led to a synergistic approach. When it's come to actions, some absurdities can be noted. Rather than closing air borders with Europe, main cluster of all the first cases of contamination, many African countries decided to close frontiers with neighboring countries. A paradoxical choice when we know that at that precise moment, most of these countries had no cases of contamination. Among the measures to fight coronavirus, it is recommended to wash hands with soap. But how can people deprived from water can wash their hands? It is also recommended to stay at home. But most of the population does not possess the need to live within a day, and the government is unable to provide for their daily needs. Regarding the measures announced by the government to deal with COVID-19 in Africa, yes, there are reasons to be perplexed, because their measures raise questions on what is at stake. Is it about announcement of the measures or the implementation of these measures? Knowing their incapacity of honoring their commitments due to successive crises and disastrous governance, we can indeed doubt this government on the availability to implement those called measures. Leading a country involves the lives of millions of people, and African leaders have always refused to take this into account. Despite various changes taking place in the world, they stubbornly refuse to understand their main role, that is to ensure the well-being of the people. They have not developed health systems in their own countries and preferred moving to other countries for better treatment. But the current crisis and border closures in several countries have forced them to take care of themselves and their families locally in the hospitals which they refuse to build and equip. And for once, they are bound to the same precarious health condition as their compatriots. In the world that is being foreshadowed before our very eyes, will African leaders understand the importance of changing their governance models? Will they understand that it is finally time to invest in the construction of their country for sake of their population and ultimately their own? Will they finally understand that there is no place like home? In any case, history is on the move, and the emergence of visionary and ambitious African leaders is inevitable. More than ever, Africa must give itself the means to have benevolent leaders at the head of the different states with the sole project to guarantee local development with all resources at their disposal. Thank you very much.